No. It's now 7th of Adar, the Yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. The day he was born, the day he died. So we'll say a few words. It says in the end of Parshas Balak that one of the princes of Israel, Zimri, took a princess from Midian, and he had relations with her in front of Moses and all the leaders of Israel. And Moshe Rabbeinu was crying, they were crying, and Rabbeinu explains in the Kutiman what it says in the Targum, that they were crying and saying Kriya Shema, and Rabbeinu explains that this is a rectification to connect Klal Yisrael, to connect Israel to their roots, which saves them from all this promiscuity and the lust of the sexual desire, which is really just a showcase, because like Rabbeinu says, anyone that knows the science, if you dissect the body and you see what's going on with all the sex, there's no desire there. It's pretty disgusting, actually, right? It looks like people going to the bathroom on each other. So by connecting, by this rectification that they were saying Kriya Shema and crying, they were connecting Israel to their roots and saving them from going this way, to capitulating into the desires of this lust of sex, which is like the joke, a person wants to get rid of his garbage on a garbage strike, so you gift wrap your garbage and you put it out on your front door, and someone comes and steals it, right? That's what the whole sex is, right? God gift wrapped these desires in lust. But it's really, these are the organs people are going to the bathroom with. So that's what it is. So Rabbeinu revealed that this was the rectification that Moshe Rabbeinu was doing by saying Kriya Shema and crying. Then he was connecting Israel to the emes, to the truth, which doesn't have very much patience doesn't capitulate to such lust. However, Rashi does ask the question here. Rashi asks, what's going on here? Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, from Mount Sinai, and he saw what was going on there. That Israel was serving this golden calf, and it was a crazy festival going on there. There was partying. They were able to, when Moses came down, immediately he heard the roar of the commotion of the festivities. They knew how to party very strong in those days. Very, very strong partying going on. But in an instant, he had them under control. He seized power and put them on trial, killed thousands of them. He put everyone in order instantly. So Rashi is asking, what happened over here? Moshe Rabbeinu was able to take control in an instant over the whole nation. How is he sitting on the sidelines crying? Even though obviously he was doing great rectifications, but we would assume, he should have taken control like he did by the golden calf. He just took control. So Rashi says that this was what Hashem wanted. The divine will was that was not the role of Moshe Rabbeinu here. The role of Moshe Rabbeinu was something else. Here was the place for Pinchas. Pinchas comes with a spear and took and killed him. Many miracles happened to him. How he did this, it was an act of amazing confidence, because he took on all of Israel. So this was happening. This was like a modern day, media, big tech control of the situation here. Zimri came and did this whole propaganda. This is what sages say straight up. It was a whole propaganda act to show, he made a whole movement of showing that this is what we should be doing. This is what's good. And it was an act of interfaith and interracial act where we sold out his identity and role as a Jew. And it's all, he did this in front of all of Israel, and he was really doing this to condone their choice of the nation that they wanted. They were lusting after these women. He made it. He showed them the way. He forged this path to show them. It was propaganda. That's what it was. And we see from here that wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu's role to fight this war against this assimilation and propaganda war. Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of Israel in all of exile. He never was allowed to come into Israel. Even his tomb is outside of Israel. He ascended to heaven, and the camp in Israel in the clouds of glory, the Zohar says, is higher than Israel. It was living on a paradigm of unimaginable with God, eating food from God, and it went with 40 days without eating, sleeping. So it's amazing beyond our capabilities of understanding even. But that's all an aspect of exile. The Jew in exile had Moshe Rabbeinu, and afterwards great tzaddikim that achieved huge heights and revealed amazing Torah, unimaginable the heights that they reached and that they helped reveal to Israel, and how they led Israel. But that's all about the Jews in exile. In the Jew in Israel, for the upcoming, may it be soon, the redemption has a new battle to fight against this propaganda war, where of progressiveness and wokeness, and which really is the breeding ground of assimilation, and all this falsehood. And even Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not his role to fight that. He goes back to the books. He's saying Kriya Shema, he's crying to Hashem, and thank God he did that, because he was, like Rabbi Nachman revealed what he was doing. He was connecting us, making sure that we're grounded in the truth. But the actual redemption from this was Pinchas comes and just took control. He just took his spear. Miracle after miracle came. The sages say 10 miracles, right? And he pierced him, and everyone saw what was going on. It was like a magic. This propaganda. You have to understand, in those days everything was magic. Egypt had crazy magic going on around their country, that people couldn't leave the country, and everything was magic. And there was a lot of magic going on with Zimri and Cosby, and we know that the roots of Christianity is very much attached to this story. All the Christianity is shituf, is making an addition. It doesn't deny the unity of God, but there's three. It makes it's like diplomacy in divinity. Everything can be found solutions to make everything, and everything should be woke and acceptable for society, and all propaganda and these settings. And Moshe Rabbeinu just stood down and was crying, and until Pinchas Eliyahu Hanavi came and put an end to it. It reminds me of what they say. I saw it brought down that Joe Biden many years ago threatened to put an end to the aiding Israel, like he did to the Ukrainians. They were threatening his son's business, so he bragged to the media how he threatened. So he threatened Israel, and the Israeli president, prime minister, I don't even want to mention the names who it was. He said, and he retorted in great haughtiness, arrogance, "We're no longer the Jew with trembling knees." Every time I see this quoted, it nauseates me. What an audacity to disrespect how despicable of him to disrespect all the Jews in the exile that lived with, went to their death with such courage. You know, we should know from it, but everyone eventually dies, and even to die on the bed, from what I understand, it takes courage, and it's not an easy thing to die, and that's why, you know, no one should die alone. It's something that takes a lot of courage to just leave this world, and the Jews for throughout all the ages, they went with courage to uphold their role as the chosen people, that show that the body is the body, but the spirit is what rules, and God rules the world, and our spirit is eternal with God, and they weren't scared to die, to live the role of a Jew, and this prime minister of Israel called that trembling knees. That's trembling knees, the courage that these Jews, and many of them danced when they were being slaughtered, when they were being tortured to death. They danced with the joy of their position, of their role, as all the people killing them took the role as murderers, and of the evil that God wanted to show what could happen, what the extent of evil could be, and the Jew celebrated their role in the world as representing the spirit and the truth, and they died al Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name. Millions of Jews had the courage to do this, and he calls it trembling knees. And if you would ask one of these Jews, would you like your own state where the women will be the soldiers, but your daughters will send them to protect us? They won't know what's more mad, that they're being slaughtered by villains, by wicked people, or that they should destroy every bit of sense that they had. Where in society was there ever such a thing that women categorically would be sent to protect the nation? It's just unimaginable, such a thing. There were exceptions, and there were great warriors, and Devorah might have been a warrior. She was for sure a prophetess of a high degree. Huldah, they were great women, not knocking them. But to say that categorically all the women should be sent as soldiers to protect the nation, any person in society until recently, they would call that the biggest act of cowardice. Talk about trembling knees, and to do so because he fears what society is going to call him, or whoever's calling the shots, the narratives here, the media, or I don't know who it is. So he doesn't have trembling knees, and all the son-in-laws, or I don't know exactly all, or whatever's going on there, they assimilated, married into Joe Biden's family. They married out of the faith. This is what's going on here. This is what the assimilation and the wokeness, that everything is giving the narrative. The media, the big tech, they have their own agendas, their own narrative. They're calling the shots, and they've decided now that the whole world should live in fear, and they shut down most of the economy, and they decide what medicines are good and what's not. Even President Trump, who did some amazing things, he tried standing up, and he said over what a Jewish doctor told him, that there are drugs that have been used for tens and tens of years, that have been tested, and they don't have bad side effects, and they work. And he tried saying it, and he backed down. They cut him down. He didn't have the strength of character to stand up against the media and the wokeness and the fear, the crazy fear. Bibi Netanyahu was in America years ago. It's on this video, and he sanctified God's name. He said, what did Roosevelt say? That there's nothing to fear except fear itself. He said he must have been a student of Rabbi Nachman, who said that the person has to go in this world on a very narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to be afraid at all. So, and they couldn't get enough of Bibi in that when he went to visit America that time, they gave him a standing ovation. The world needed a leader that said not to fear. And now not only is he leading the world in fear, he sold out. He's the first person in Israel. He closed the borders of Israel from Jews entering Israel. This is evil on a whole new level. He closed down the schools where they teach Torah. The last people to do that were like the Romans. He reached the highest levels of evil, all from this fear. I'm not judging him. I don't know. I won't be surprised if these people are being extorted. Their lives could be threatened, their lives of their loved ones. I don't know what's going on. How they're all following into a narrative and avoiding simple truths that many doctors even they took a risk. They went online and they're broadcasting out, don't follow this falsehood. But the leaders don't have it. In Belarus, the Jews, when my friends went to Ukraine for Rosh Hashanah, they were able to go to Belarus. Why? Because Belarus, the president, I don't know exactly who he is, but he stood up to the world order, and he didn't take their money. They offered him like $1 billion of money or nothing to close down his economy and bow down to fear, and he didn't. And my friends went there, and there was no corona there. There was nothing. And in the whole world, we see the death rates are the same as always. And we hear reports that it's not fun, this corona thing. God forbid Hashem should save us from it. It's not a fun thing at all. It's very, very painful. Hashem should save us. But this happens, and everyone eventually dies. And Hashem should be merciful, that we should have merciful death. But this capitulation of fear to the narrative of the big tech and the big pharma and the oligarchs and the media, this is a messianic test, like we saw by Zimri and Cosby, where Zimri makes this whole propaganda, this whole wokeness. He's a prince and he's taking this princess from a different nation. This is the way to do it. This is what's proper, and all of Israel is watching this, and they're cheering it on. This is what they want. They're feeding the fuel to the madness. And even Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't the figure to put it into it. He was doing his rectifications, and then Pinchas, who's Eliyahu, came and he just put an end to it. And that's what we're hoping now in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. We should merit now to see Eliyahu Hanavi to put an end to this falsehood, this craziness that the world is following leaders and messages and narratives that are completely insane. And we should merit to be the Jews of trembling knees, like Rabbi Nachman, who was always trembling before Hashem. People saw that he had such an awareness of who God is, was creating the whole world every second from nothing. He was trembling, and when he put his hand on the table, he was trembling. And when people were leaning on the table, they all were trembling from his fear of God. That's the Jews of trembling knees that we should all aspire to be. And those Jews with trembling knees had the strength of character and conviction and truth. They weren't scared to die. They weren't scared of nothing. And they didn't assimilate, and they didn't capitulate to the lies of society. The Jews lived with nothing, even though all their neighbors ridiculed them and belittled them, and more than any media pressure you can imagine, right? and they were strong with the Torah. They went with the Torah. They didn't even have even a second of doubt that what was true and was wrong. That the Torah says that if a person swears that a man is a woman, or even if a man is a man, that's a violation of the Torah. The person is punished. It's forbidden, and the Jews kept the Torah, and Jews will keep the Torah. So we need to be strong with the spirit. Rabbi Nachman said every Jew has a nekuda, has a aspect of Messiah in him. We have to be strong with our nekuda of Mashiach. The nekuda of Mashiach is above every rabbi, is above any narrative, because who could make a narrative for the Messiah? Messiah calls the shots. He's the king of the world. And every Jew has that nekuda, that point in him, that aspect. And Rabbi Nachman says that he revealed that to us, because we have to aspire to get there, to rise above this narrative, even to a certain extent, this is above the role of Moshe. We know the Ramchal revealed that after Mashiach is revealing himself, so Moshe Rabbeinu will be even higher. But in the paradigm that we live now in exile, that's not the role of Moshe Rabbeinu to do that, to break the narrative of this propaganda. Moshe Rabbeinu sets the truth for Israel. He gave us the Torah. He made it so clear to us. He revealed the most amazing Torah in all of history. He revealed us the Torah, and we're strong with Moshe Rabbeinu. But he didn't bring us out of all the propaganda around us, which has also crept up inside of us now. That's a messianic a message that still has to come. And Rabbi Nachman already started that message and revealed that we have each a point of this message inside of us, that we have to rise above the sheker of the narrative of the falsehood that has surrounded us, and we're drowning in it. We have the ability to surmount that and to give life and appoint Messiah. To point this the truth, point the Nanach, Nachman, Yuma, until the actual figure of Mashiach comes and brings the ultimate redemption. Nanach, Yuma, Nanach.